Today on Bakes and Blenders, we're going to be learning about some basic cake decorating techniques. We'll go over 4 different types of borders we can put on our cakes, how to make a simple drip cake, what you can do with sprinkles, and how to create the perfect swirl on your cake. Let's get started talking about borders. To make a rope border, hold your piping bag at a 45-degree angle and pipe a series of concentric circles, working your way around the cake. This creates the illusion of a coiled rope going around the top of your cake. Eventually, you will have to take a break to readjust your piping bag and readjust your squeeze on the piping bag. That's okay. Once you get to a downward position where your buttercream is basically on top of the cake, stop, pull away, make any adjustments to your hand and your bag, and then just pick up where you left off. For this technique, I suggest using a medium-sized tip. Open or closed star generally works just fine. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out my video on piping tips for beginners to familiarize yourself. For this cake, I'm using a 1M piping tip. It's one of the most versatile and useful piping tips, and I think it is a great choice for beginners. I like to start at what's going to be the back of my cake because where your rope joins your starting point, it's never going to look the most beautiful. So if you just put it in the back, no one will notice. When I first got started with cake decorating, I stuck to a fairly basic uniform for my cakes. I'd frost the cake as best I could, then I'd pipe a border up around the top and fill in the center of that border with sprinkles. You can swap out the colors and piping tips to create different looks, but this was my basic technique, my basic style for decorating cakes. Having a cake that is frosted very well, nice clean, sharp edges, straight lines can really make a difference. So if you need help learning how to frost your cake, check out the link to the video on your screen now, and I'll put links in the description box below. You can also find links to the products I'm using in this video in the description box. That includes the links for my turntable and all the piping tips that I'm going to show. This cake was actually my son's birthday cake, and it was a parrot-themed, parrot-inspired cake design that he came up with himself. Let's move on to kisses, or as I sometimes call them, plops. Now you don't have to do this step, but I am awful with spacing. I can't even explain to you how bad I am. So what I'm using is the back of a different piping tip just to roughly plot out where I'm going to be putting my buttercream kisses. I'm trying to line them up directly across from each other. I start by making 4 points of the compass basically, and then I can fill in the spaces between. Hold the piping bag perpendicular and slightly above your cake. Apply even pressure until the frosting begins to form a nice mound, then release the pressure and pull up to create a buttercream kiss. Space your kisses evenly around the edge of the cake to make a border. For this technique, medium or large piping tips will work. I am using a large piping tip because this is an 8-inch cake. There's a lot of space to work with. In my opinion, open tips look best for this. You could also use a round nozzle. If you want to see how I did that on my tiramisu cake, you can check out the link above, and I'll put one down below in the description box. This piping tip that I'm using on my coconut cake is the Ateco 869. And hey, if you see a cake in this video that you want the recipe for, go ahead and check out the description box below. I'm going to put all of those recipe links in there. Since this is a coconut cake and I've already pressed coconut all around the sides of my cake, I had to fill in that top area with even more shredded coconut. For a shell border, hold the piping bag at an angle and apply even pressure until the frosting begins to build up on itself. Release the pressure and pull away at an angle, creating a tail. You're going to repeat this process, overlapping the tails with the next mound of buttercream until you make your way around the cake. Now, I absolutely recommend that you do this with your cake on a turntable. For some reason, I had the brilliant idea that I would do this just on a cake stand. It makes it difficult to get a really good shape around your cake when you do it that way. For this technique, I suggest using medium-sized piping tips. Open or closed star tips can work well. I am using a 1M on this cake. This is my coffee cake layer cake, and in between the vanilla cake layers, I have some cinnamon pecan streusel. So I decided to fill in the top of the cake with even more of this streusel. Not only does it look good, in my opinion, it also shows us what we can expect when we slice into the cake. Basic cake decorating doesn't mean it has to be boring. If you're using the same uniform that I do of a border with maybe it filled in the center, think about the colors, the flavors, and the textures of the cake to come up with how you can decorate your own cake. For swirls, hold your piping bag perpendicular to the cake, pipe a rosette, and swirl it up to a point. Release the pressure and pull straight up. You're going to repeat this process, creating swirls all the way around the top of your cake. I do this the same way I did the buttercream kisses on my coconut cake. You start by making the 4 points of a compass and then fill in the space between. For this technique, just like with the buttercream kisses, it's important that you make sure that each swirl is roughly the same height. You can make them as tall as you'd like. Keep in mind if it goes too tall, they could fall over, but make sure that they are uniform. For this technique, I find that a medium-sized piping tip, open or closed star, works best. You can probably tell, but I am using a 1M piping tip on this cake. Now this is my classic funfetti cake with white chocolate buttercream. Absolutely delicious. And if you haven't figured it out yet, yes, we are going to fill in the top of the cake with copious amounts of rainbow sprinkles. Adding a chocolate drip to a cake can really elevate your cake design, I think. I suggest using a piping bag or a spoon or even a squeeze bottle if you have one. Start by doing a test drip on the back of your cake. So right now I'm looking to see if my ganache is at the right consistency. Is it too thin? Is it too thick? Too hot? Too cold? I'm going to give it a minute and see how far it drips and decide if it's ready. This drip was a little short. It could be because my ganache is too thick, or it could be I just didn't squeeze out enough. So I tried a second test drip. When you're happy with the consistency of your ganache, start working your way around the cake, adding drips. Alternate how long you squeeze your bag or how much ganache you add to the edge of the cake to create some variety in the length of your drips. You might not be happy with some of those drips, and that's okay because a cake needs a back anyways. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my videos. When I'm doing a drip cake, I prefer to think of it almost as if I'm tracing the outer edge of my cake with the ganache and pausing every now and then to create a drip. This will create a nice border around the top of your cake of ganache. You can also start by pouring your ganache onto the center of the cake and using a palette knife to smooth it out and brush it over the edges. This will create more of a curtain style drip. I don't love this method because you don't have as much control, but feel free to experiment if you'd like. Now, depending on your design, like with my salted caramel cake, you might not want to fill the top of your cake in with ganache. But if you do, once you've gone your whole way around the cake, add more to the top and smooth it into a nice even layer. Totally optional, but I like to add a little swirl to my ganache on top. We'll be covering this technique in just a moment. Give your ganache time to set up. You don't want to decorate while it's still super soft, and then do whatever you'd like on top. Here I am adding some fresh rosemary sprigs to create a border around the top of my cake because this is my chocolate rosemary cake. pair your next drip cake with any of the other designs we've tried. You could put a border up top, or we've still got a few more techniques that we're going to cover. Sprinkles are great on top of your cake, but you can also use them to decorate the sides of your cake. While the buttercream is still soft, gently press your sprinkles into the side of your cake to create a little bit of a border around the edge, or go absolutely crazy and cover all of the sides all the way up to the top with sprinkles. I once had someone tell me that a cake is naked without a bottom border. Well, guess who has 2 thumbs and almost never uses a border? This girl. Don't let anyone other than a paying customer tell you how to decorate your cakes. We've focused a lot on the top of the cake, but I really do suggest doing something around the sides of the cake, whether it's a bottom border or sprinkles like we're doing here. Another great thing about using sprinkles on your cake is it's a great way to cover up any blemishes. And it doesn't even have to be sprinkles. As you've seen me use in other cakes, you can decorate with shredded coconut, maybe some mini chocolate chips or crushed graham crackers, whatever makes sense for your cake, the flavors, and the design. For a rustic but polished finish on a cake, I love creating a simple swirl. Apply your final coat of buttercream into a nice, smooth, even layer. For this lemon blueberry cake, I chose to do a naked style, so there's no buttercream on the sides. I only have to focus on the top. With a small spoon or an offset spatula, start on the outside edge of your cake. Apply pressure as you turn your turntable and slowly move your utensil towards the center of the cake. This will create a beautiful buttercream swirl. You can just as easily start in the center of your cake and make a swirl that goes towards the edge, whichever is more comfortable for you. To show off the flavors of this cake, I'm going to decorate the edges with some fresh blueberries and candied lemon peel. You can even use this technique on the side of your cake. Same principles apply. Start at the top of your cake, turn your turntable while you move your utensil towards the bottom, or start at the bottom and work your way to the top. Thanks for watching today. I hope you found these basic cake decorating techniques to be helpful and useful in your own cake decorating journey. What cake decorating technique do you want to learn next? Leave me a comment below and let me know. Be sure to check out my other cake decorating tutorials on the screen now.